Hey everyone, so welcome back to the channel. If you're new, thanks for tuning in. The day has come where I can introduce the 1986 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. So here it is. I have a ton of work that I'm going to be doing to it to try and get it certified and ready for the road. It's a pretty cool car. I'm going to be going through the whole thing from bumper to bumper. I don't even have a back bumper, so from bumper to like the back part of the frame. I'm going to cover everything that I can possibly cover in terms of prepping this vehicle, getting it ready to be certified and on the road. I'm so pumped to start this project. The time I made this video, I've already kind of started on a couple things just because it needed a few things from when I bought it, because I drove it over 5.5 hours on the highway going 110 for the entire time, and it was a champ. It drank a lot of gas, but it's a V8, it's from the 80s. That I kind of had expected. So third time stopping for gas, already about 55 bucks in, about halfway home. On the way home, I always had full fuel, but not actually. The fuel gauge is broken. Yeah, a couple things that I have done already though is I did an oil change. I took out the oil pan, it was covered in oil. So I had a feeling that the oil pan was leaking somewhere. So I figured I'd take it out, reseal it. The oil pan actually had 2 holes in it. Also, the dipstick snapped off inside of the oil pan. And thankfully the previous owner had already supplied me with a new dipstick tube, which I have right here. But he never installed it because it's a pain in the butt to install. In order to put the new dipstick in, I have to take off the exhaust cover just because of it's like an S that slides in. That I'm going to show in a future video. This Jeep originally had 3 serpentine belts on it, but there's 2 on them. When I got home, there was only 1 left on it. Everyone, so I'm back from the parts store again for the 3rd time. Brings up to 12 belts that I've bought, and I've already replaced 11. So hopefully out of the new bundle of belts, I can get the right ones on the Jeep, so all of the accessories are working how they should. And then I can return the ones I don't use and move to the next part of this project. I'm not sure if I pinched this line because it wasn't leaking on the way home, but I think when I took out the oil pan, I pinched the transmission line, which was that close to breaking. So the 3rd thing I did is I replaced the transmission lines. Those are the 3 things I've done so far. I've made a list, but one is just a parts list of everything I need. I think it's double-sided. And then the other one is just things that I want to kind of do to it. So since this is the episode where I'm introducing the Wagoneer, I think I might as well kind of go over what my agenda is with it. Install the dipstick, the seat belts. I want to have them all proper. The previous owner, what they ended up doing is they kind of tore out the floor and they put in this steel plate. And it's literally the entire floor is steel plate, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, so it's all steel plate. It had all of the options. I know it's automatic. I really wanted it to be stick shift with all the manual goodies, but these aren't that easy to find, so I wasn't too picky in terms of what options it had. I'm just happy I finally got one, and I can wrench away on it and be a grease monkey again, because my Corvette, even though I have been greasing away on it with doing work, it's very clean, and this thing needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of frame work. The motors work, but the frame rail that actually is the actuator that puts the window up and down is missing. So I'm thinking it broke off. I'm gonna have to try and find one, maybe make one if that's even a thing. The back window, that works properly. Parking brake, it's the pedal, right? And all that linkage works fine, so I know it's not something wrong with that. And I kind of know what's wrong with the parking brake. Yeah, so it's not attached. There it is. The other one kind of looks like it's attached, but I followed it up and it just kind of goes away and it isn't attached over there somewhere. Other things that I need to do this is, for some of you who maybe own a Wagoneer, you'll know that the exhaust normally doesn't dump out right there. I'm gonna have to try and either fabricate exhaust that goes up and around that rear axle, or maybe I can find OEM piece that I can buy and get that figured out. Let's go back to the actual list. We can see what else there is. Suspension. It is leaf spring front and rear. The leaves on this are pretty much straight. One of them's got that a tilt action going. They are all equally crappy. And As much as that sounds funny, it's actually a good thing, because if one of them was going and the other one wasn't, it would be really hard to replace. But I don't want to put a lift kit on it. I really like the stock look that these cars have from the factory. I think what I'm going to do for suspension is I'm going to take off all the leafs, take off all the shocks. I'm going to get new shocks, but with the leafs, I'm going to see if I can have them re-bent. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've never done it before, but I guess we'll see how it turns out, because it definitely needs it. Like, you can tell just by looking. Like, so other things the Jeep is going to need. This isn't really so it can pass safety. This is just like a personal preference thing. And that is, there's no headliner. So I'm thinking, as much as I don't want the original one, because I've looked online, they're just like the flat color, I think I'm gonna try and switch it up and maybe put like a Mexican blanket, like the bright stripes. I might just put one of those up that goes from front to back, make it look really nice. Kind of like if it was a factory option, even though it's gonna be obvious that it wasn't. Other little things, like a new steering wheel, as well as the radio. If I can, I'm gonna try and swap this thing out for the OEM one. I don't know why, but I'm a fan of the factory radios, even if there's no aux cord or anything. The original one for this car definitely had a cassette tape, and I know you can get the cassette tapes that have the aux cord. I kind of like that. The one I have in my TJ is a Bluetooth, and it's like a really cheap aftermarket. I don't mind it, but it doesn't do anything special for me. Like, when you're sitting, driving this thing, you're down the road, and like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, the Wagoneer has its own feeling on the road. Like, it feels really big, and like it absorbs the bumps like a couple seconds after you hit it. It's a really neat feeling driving this thing on the road. And if I have the factory radio with my cassette tape somewhere, it's just gonna add to that feeling and that experience. So I'm definitely gonna try and find an OEM working radio that I can plug into this thing. I know all the speakers work because I was listening to music on the way home. So this totally factory switch here was the fog lights. And when I bought the Jeep, the fog lights came, see that box? Oil pressure gauge is not reacting at all. It did have an oil leak on the way home, but even when I was listening to the radio, I always had that ear open to see with my ears if there was any weird sounds coming from the engine. Wasn't anything too weird. I did, the old dipstick did still go in, so I was able to check a little bit. I didn't really trust it, so I just put some more oil in on the way home. I knew that wouldn't hurt it, so I know it has oil pressure, but the gauge isn't telling me how much. It actually runs really smooth for the age of it. The previous owner's like, yeah, it's gonna need a carb clean 100%, and it does, because when you like stomp on it, it kind of chokes a little, and when you just let it idle, like after driving it, you let it idle, it chokes a little bit and then it settles up. So getting a carb rebuild kit to figure that out is definitely something on the list as well. I love this thing so much just the way it is from buying it, because it has so many things that I can do to it that I am going to do to it and share it with you. Also, everything I'm talking about, that's literally just going to be like future videos coming up. I have another list here for the Corvette. So within the next couple months, I'm going to be bouncing in between the two lists, doing what I can. And I'll probably switch between lists when I'm waiting for parts to come in. What else is there to do? Okay, so when it's time to get the suspension out, I'm gonna put it up on cinder blocks. I'm gonna share with you what I do to make sure that I'm safe when I'm working under the vehicle. I see this way too many times, where it's like the redneck approach, where it's just like the pump jack with like a brick or something. Don't do that. It's not smart. You can die. If this car falls on you, you're dead. And not like whatever car you're working on, if you're working on a car. Watch videos, be safe, jack up the car. Literally every time I jack up a car, I will shake the car as hard as I can. And if it falls, I just saved my life. And I'll jack it up again and I'll shake it until it doesn't fall. And then I'm able to work on it and be safe. Look it up, don't redneck it, or 3 out of 4 is great. No, it's 4 to 4, because if it falls, you're dead. Sorry, that was a rant. It bugs me when I see that stuff online, people make fun of it. It's like, yeah, but people die from that. right? So be smart, use your head. Another thing I need to do. So previous owner put all new brake lines in, which is great because I hate doing brake lines. It's weird, I bought all this stuff before I even bought the Jeep, but I bought all new brakes, rotors, pads, all that fun stuff, ready to go in. But I need to prioritize what I'm doing first. I want to clean up the engine bay. If I can find cleaner valve covers or intake tunnel and all that. So I'm going to take the hood off and put that away so I just have more space. I'm in a double car garage, but the Wagoneer is like super long. I can walk around this side when the tailgate's not down. The front, you kind of have to shimmy around it. If I take that hood off, it just means all of the work I'm going to be doing to the engine or in the engine bay, it'll just turn out nicer. So that's another thing I have to do. Okay, bodywork. Once I do the frame and the suspension and get ready for the safety, then I want to look at bodywork. This is what I mean by bodywork. It's not that bad. However, it's all over the place. In some spots, it's actually pretty bad. Both sides, the rocker panel. So we got stuff like this that I want to try and fix up. Not with Bondo. I'm gonna take my time with it, cut it open, bend out the sheet metal, weld it in place. Just because, like, I might as well. Here's the thing, I never build a car to sell it. That's like, I always build it for myself, and then if I get an offer for it, great. But if it doesn't sell, I'm perfectly fine with keeping this beauty for myself, just enjoying it, right? So here's some more of the body work I'm gonna have to do. As you can see, there's some pretty big holes. It's about the same, maybe a little bit better, maybe a bit worse on the passenger side as well. There's only one spot on the front, and I'll go over that in another video when I'm focusing on body work, but it's there, it's on the list, it's gonna get done. I don't have a rearview mirror. Kind of liked it, but I have to have one. I have the one that came with it right here. It's all gunky and stuff, so I'm gonna see if I can just get another one that is nice and clean. I might get a new one. Other things I need to do to have it pass safety is I need to get a matching spare tire, the jack and all the little things that go along with it. Now, the amazing thing about this Jeep, which kind of blew my mind, was, remember how I was talking about the belts that were on it and one of them fell off, so I only had one of three? I put the other one on and I have AC. However, the AC line, I guess the zip tie that they got put on, I took off, that tapped the exhaust. So I don't have AC now, but literally all I have to do is just swap out that one line. The compressor works. I know the AC works. I actually felt it. And that one line, I should get it back. Might have to add Freon, but. And here's another cool little feature to it. So, back seat, this is an ashtray. I don't smoke, I have asthma. I try to be healthy, but I think it's really cool that it comes with ashtrays and things like that. It even has the middle seat, so no center console. Yeah, if you want to see me do this project, I'm gonna do it either way, whether you watch or not. So it's really up to you if you want to follow along. If you do want to follow along, there's two things you can do. The first one is you hit the subscribe button. That way I know you like me. And the second one is you hit the bell, and that will notify you whenever I put a video out. And what I'm gonna try and do is get to a point where I can put out one video every day. I think it's something I'm gonna have to work up to, just because I'm finding I'm doing a lot more in the garage, not enough on the computer editing. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching this far. I got a lot of cool stuff coming up, not just with the Wagoneer or the Corvette, but as well as with the TJ. There's definitely a lot of cool things that are gonna unfold soon. I have one last thing to do before I go, and that is to give a Patreon shout out to Cheney Fort. Thank you so much for showing your support and believing in what I'm doing. I'm definitely gonna be posting a bunch more coming up in a bit, so I'll see you then.